All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Since the start of this NBA season, the Detroit Pistons have been one of the best teams in the league. There's nothing flashy about these Pistons, as plain and simple, they just go out there and continue to handle their business. And in doing so, the wins continue to pile up for them. At 41 and 13, Detroit came into play today in possession of the best winning percentage in the NBA. The culture change. You cannot talk enough about this under head coach JB Bickerstaff. He inherited a team that lost 68 games a year before he got there, 65 the year before that, and 59 the year before that. And of course, we can go right down the list as talking about the losing and the futility in the Motor City for this ball club. And now he had a Pistons team last season in his first year that they more than tripled their win total from the previous year. And now we have a Pistons team that if they go 19 and 9 the rest of the way, they're probably going to finish with the best record in the East, but then also they're going to win 60 games. So you want to talk about a tremendous turnaround. To me, I feel like the job that JB Bickerstaff is doing with this Pistons team does not get talked about enough because changing the culture for a losing team, regardless of the sport, is not easy to do, especially at the speed that it has come at so far for these Pistons. Now, naturally, the Pistons are contenders in the Eastern Conference. Okay, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And the way that the Pistons are playing and the way that the Pistons are going about it, the names have changed on the back of the jerseys. The names have changed as far as the coaches and in the front office. But the bottom line is, and even the ownership room for that matter, but nonetheless, this Pistons organization just has a way of going about building a contender. And I say that you go back and look at the squads led by Isaiah Thomas that won back-to-back NBA championships in 1989 and 1990, or that squad from 2004 that famously upset the heavily favored Los Angeles Lakers in the NBA Finals. Those teams embody Detroit. The same thing can be said about these current Pistons. They're gritty, they're tough, they're not flashy, and they're doing it for the guy next to them. And that's big right there. Defense is a staple for these Pistons, just like it has been or was when they were winning championships. You're talking about a Piston squad that came into play today, second in the NBA in opponents' field goal percentage, and they were third or are third in points allowed. And I'll tell you like this, when you play this Pistons team, everything that you get, you're going to have to work for and earn. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Uh, this Pistons team, you can say that they have a bad boy mentality. And of course, it starts with the leader of the pack and Isaiah Stewart. You think about the fight that the Pistons had with the Hornets a couple of weeks ago. Stewart came off the bench. Yeah, he's serving a 7-game suspension, but you know what? It's one of those where if we're in a fight, I'm going to fight with you, and it's one of those where the teammates remember that type of stuff. You look at Cade Cunningham, and Cade Cunningham, a lot of people feel like he should be in the MVP conversation, and I truly do believe he should. He's averaging nearly 26 points per game, nearly 10 assists, and of course, we saw what he did on the like under the bright lights of Madison Square Garden against the New York Knicks last night. Big time tone setter for the Pistons to begin their second half of the season. A lot of people feel like the Knicks have what it takes to come out of the Eastern Conference this year. And of course, the Pistons swept the season series. And of course, in doing so last night, they did it without Isaiah Stewart. They did it without Jalen Duren, the All Star, and they still went out there and made it look easy. And a big part of that was due to the 42 points that Cade Cunningham poured in. Jalen Duren, like I said before, his first All Star game appearance. This young man continues to get better and better each year. And of course, one question about this Detroit team, a lot of people are going to say, do they have enough firepower offensively to get out of the East? I'll say it like this: under JB Bickerstaff, Detroit relies on their system. They play well in the transition game offensively. They're selfless on the offensive end of the floor, and they believe in ball movement. And I'll tell you like this: they have some shooters around this team that, you know what, if you allow them to get into the zone, a la a Duncan Robinson, they can hurt you. But nonetheless, you look at the turnaround that we've seen from the Pistons, and you can't talk about it and not give credit to the guy in the front office is calling the shots. And I'm talking about their president of basketball operations in Trajan Landing. He's only been on the job a couple of years. One of his biggest moves was bringing in JB Bickerstaff. And of course, you can't talk about this enough. I was really shocked when Cleveland parted with JB Bickerstaff. I think at some point the real truth of that story is going to come out someday. Not going to be now, of course. But nonetheless, he fell into the Pistons' lap. And even with that, even with the success that JB Bickerstaff had in Cleveland, I don't think a lot of people expected him to do what he has been doing so far for the Pistons. But nonetheless, you have to have the right people in the right positions leading your organization. That is what the Pistons have right now. My question is, are people talking enough about the Pistons to get out of the East? I feel like yes and no, because and I'm going to say that because, yeah, you got the Celtics right there, and a lot of people expect the Celtics to get Jason Tatum back at some point this season. That's going to be a huge shot in the arm for them. Make no mistake about it. A lot of people are also talking about the New York Knicks, because even though that the Pistons swept the Knicks during the season series, remember they swept the Knicks last year in the regular season heading into the playoffs, but New York got the best of the Pistons in 6 games. This time around, I truly do think that you really have to take the Pistons very serious as far as coming out of the East. They are more than likely, barring some real severe injuries, they're going to finish with the best record in the Eastern Conference, which means that the road to the NBA Finals out of the East will go through Detroit. With that said, okay, this Pistons organization has still not won a playoff game or playoff series rather since 2008. And first and foremost, I think that they made tremendous strides last year, not just finishing with a winning record, not just making the playoffs, but they also won a couple of playoff games in that series. And that's big because that was the first time since the 2008 Eastern Conference Finals that Detroit even won playoff games. I'll say this about these Pistons: they lost to the Knicks last year. But I think that playoff experience will serve them, well, come the playoffs this time around, because getting there and advancing are two different things. And no disrespect to the Knicks, but I think one of the biggest reasons why the Pistons lost that series last spring to the Knicks in the first round was due to the fact that, you know what, the Pistons didn't know how to win. The Knicks have been there, and at least they know what it takes to be on the postseason stage and, of course, win a playoff series. I think this Pistons team is going to be a little bit more battle tested. And, of course, if they finish with the best record in the East, they're going to be getting somebody coming out of that play-in tournament. But then, however, how ironic would it be? Because there's a lot of possibilities, because things are like uber tight, if you will, in the middle of the Eastern Conference standings. We could possibly see a Pistons Cavs series in the second round of the playoffs. And of course, JB Bickerstaff facing his former club, albeit that they face each other 4 times a year to begin with, or of course, possibly this same Knicks team that I talked about a couple of breaths ago, possibly having to face them. But nonetheless, this Pistons team is the real deal. And I think having Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart out right now, and they're still winning games, I think it bodes to their mental toughness, and it's only going to help them coming down the stretch of this regular season, and of course into the postseason. This Pistons team, people need to start paying attention to them, and like I've said before, and I will say it again right now: if you're going to beat them in the playoffs, you had better pack a lunch because, like I said, they're going to make you work for it. Bottom line is, these Pistons are the real deal. And if people have not started to take them serious as of yet, they bet to, or they better, very, very soon. But folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw on this podcast, you know what to do. Just hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. And like I always say, it's greatly appreciated. Also, if you are on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you can check me out anytime at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you give me that follow, it will be my pleasure to do the same in return. That also goes for Instagram, where you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. Also, if you are on Facebook, definitely be sure to check out the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports groups going on social media. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, and I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.